What is going on, y'all? Thank you for joining us here on the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, the year of our Lord 2025. And things are moving. Things are moving. The president has ordered strikes against the Houthis. Israel has launched an offensive against Hamas, finally. And the left is actively trying to kill conservatives. Imagine that. And so we're going to get into all of that. But thank you for joining us here on the SHR Media Network. You can follow us on all the socials at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for our merch, you can head over to missionreadymen.com and click Shop 7 Armors and check out all of the great designs that we have over there. All right. It has been like drinking from a fire hose with this president over the past several weeks, couple months. And so we got a lot to get into. So let's get after it. All right. So the president has ordered strikes against the Houthis, the rebels in Yemen, because they have been attacking our vessels, our military vessels, our commercial vessels, and not just ours, but worldwide shipping interests. They've been disrupting them and attacking them, sinking them. And the President Trump, finally had enough and said, no more. And he ordered strikes against them. And apparently the Biden administration, according to Marco Rubio, in his epic takedown of Margaret Brennan again, I don't have a clip of it, but look it up because it's pretty fantastic. But he apparently the Biden administration struck some Houthi sites, some Houthi missile launchers here and there, but nothing sustained, nothing that would really deter them from doing these things, nothing that would make Iran back off from supporting them, nothing like that. And so for this president to go ahead and do that, that probably is a shock to their system. That they probably didn't expect it, even though they should have, because everybody around the world knows President Trump is not playing games. He's just not playing games. And the Houthis, they played stupid games, so they're winning stupid prizes. And I think I have a soundbite of one of President Trump's surrogates talking about this. Maybe not. Like I said, it's been like drinking from a fire hose lately, and we got a lot of stuff going on right now, and so I haven't had the chance to prepare the way I normally like to. I prepared more this time than I did last week, but things are just in kind of a state right now. But yeah, here we go. This is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth talking about the strikes in Yemen. And so let's take a look at that, and then we'll talk about it some more.
The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately. We will hold you accountable as the sponsor of this proxy. And I echo his statement. We will not be nice about it. This is not the Biden administration. The message is clear. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake.
The message is clear. And that's something that has been lacking or that was lacking from the Biden administration. There was no clear message. There was no clear agenda. There was just stuff happening. And that speaks to the fact that there wasn't a chief executive running things. President Biden had no idea what was going on. His surrogates, not even his surrogates, really, probably Obama's surrogates is a more accurate way to put it. Obama's surrogates, the puppeteers, were running the show. And so they had no clear direction, no clear directive. They certainly weren't putting America first. They weren't putting American interests first. They were just trying to pay lip service to it, to make it I don't know, just make it seem like give it some sort of patina of doing something meaningful. And we all know that they weren't doing anything, nothing. And so we have the president finally putting his foot down and ordering these strikes. And my prayer is that they just completely wipe out the Houthis. Completely wipe out the Houthis. And on the other side of that, or probably hand in hand with that, Israel has finally decided to launch another offensive against Hamas. It's about time. I mean, I know that rescuing hostages, getting hostages released, trading for hostages is of paramount importance when it comes to securing their safety and things like that. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that as unfortunate as it is, we're not going to get all of those hostages back. Hamas just won't allow that. Hamas is a bloodthirsty terrorist organization that hates Israel, that hates the West, and they are going to do everything they possibly can to make sure that they wipe Israel and then eventually the West off the map, or at the very least bring the West under their subjugation, which is what Islam calls for. It's their goal. And wiping out Israel is in Hamas's charter. It's in their governing documents. So this is as sad as it potentially is for the remaining hostages if they're still alive. This comes down to a leader, specifically Netanyahu, weighing the national interest, the interests of his country, against the individuals that are still in captivity. Now they claim that there's intelligence that they're still alive. I don't necessarily believe that at this point, for as long as they've been in captivity. And we already know that they just don't care about the truth, because they released the body of someone who they said was one of their hostages, and it turned out not to be true. They said people were alive, and then they returned them deceased. They returned their remains. So it's for Netanyahu, it's kind of a Hobson's choice. Do we wait for Hamas to release the hostages and then go kill them, or do we go in and kill them and hope and pray that they can rescue the hostages? It's a tough call. It's a tough call that no leader really wants to have to make. But at the same time, when presented with that choice, they have to make one. They absolutely have to make one. And I think launching this offensive against Hamas was the right call, because there was supposed to be another exchange of hostages, and Hamas reneged on the deal. You renege on the deal, then you get what you get. You get another offensive. And I think because they reneged on that deal, because they reneged on that deal, that all bets were off at that point. I think they had to have at least some inkling that the hostages that they were hoping to get back may not be alive. And so that alters the calculus a little bit, in my opinion. Netanyahu hasn't released a statement to my knowledge yet, so I don't know exactly what they were thinking when they decided to go ahead and do this. They may have, and I just haven't seen it yet. That's entirely possible. But you also have to think that there was some coordination between the president's administration and the Israelis. Trump ordered these strikes against the Houthis to stop them from harassing our ships through the shipping lanes in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and the Suez Canal, Egypt's Suez Canal. Those waterways are very important for energy and cargo shipments between Asia and Europe. And then you have Hamas, not probably allied with the Houthis, reneging on their deal to swap hostages. So you kind of have to think that there was some coordination between the two countries to get this started. And good. Wipe them all out. Wipe out the Houthis. Wipe out Hamas. Wipe out Hezbollah. Just wipe them all out. The world will be a much better place without them. And because these people, like I said before, they want Israel, they want the West destroyed, they want to subjugate all the infidels, and Trump and Netanyahu said, "Not today, Satan, not today," and I couldn't be happier about it. Speaking of people who the world would be a better place without, President Trump also recently ordered the deportation of Tren de Aragua gang members. Tren de Aragua, if you want to be correct about it, but I don't, so I don't care. But President Trump ordered the deportation of those gang members, and the left. President Trump has this uncanny ability to get the left to support the most ridiculous, vile things and support them vehemently. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing that the left is fighting against President Trump for getting these violent criminals out of our country. I really do not understand it. And we had this ridiculous judge try and intervene and try and get the deportation flight to turn around. But this is what boggles my mind. When Biden mandated that we wear masks in order to in order to keep our jobs. No judge intervened and tried to overturn that. When Bribin mandated that we get jabbed with an experimental substance that has turned out to be completely harmful to almost everyone who had to take it, no judge intervened to try and stop that. But President Trump mandates deporting illegal aliens, gang members who raped, murdered, trafficked women and children, trafficked fentanyl, which is responsible for killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. That's the case that some activist judge decides he's going to intervene on. It's truly mystifying that these people exist and that they hate this country so much. And the left likes to say, well, we didn't vote for Elon. We didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for that. Did you vote for this judge, James Boasberg? Did you vote for him? Because I didn't. And then, so does this federal judge have the authority to interfere with a president as he conducts foreign policy? And Stephen Miller, President Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy, I believe is what his title is, something like that. He wasn't having it. He was not having it. And this is him talking to Martha McCallum on Fox. And he's responding to, I'm not going to play Andrew Weissman, but he's responding to Andrew Weissman, his comments on the whole situation. So let's take a look at that. Stephen Miller is not playing around.
The judge has to be convinced that these individuals aren't real. I mean, it's a huge group, and nobody's going to miss any of these people, but they're quantifiable. So can you prove that these individuals were linked with Tren de Aragua and that Tren de Aragua is part of a Maduro operation, Stephen?
So first of all, Andrew Weissman is an absolute moron. He is a moron, and he is a fool, and he's a degenerate. Andrew Weissman has devoted his career to putting innocent Americans in jail, taking away their civil liberties. He was involved in the Mueller coup against a democratically elected President, Donald J. Trump. Weissman should never be on TV anywhere. He should hang his head in eternal shame for what he's done to this country. And now he's up there shilling for people who rape and murder Americans. That's who Andrew Weissman is. I met the mother of Jocelyn Nungary, Alexis Nungary, who President Trump honored at the State of the Union, named a national wildlife refuge after her daughter. Tren de Aragua terrorists took that 12-year-old angel and they tortured her to death. They sexually assaulted her. They stripped her and they dumped her body in a river. That's who President Trump has deported from this country. Behind every single one of those terrorists was another future rape victim, another future sex trafficking victim, another future murder victim. Most importantly, every one of those people was here illegally. They have no right to be in this country for 1 second longer. They are illegal aliens. They are foreign terrorists. They are alien enemies. And the law at the heart of this issue was signed in the founding generation of this country, the same generation that wrote our Constitution. People say, oh, it's an 18th century law. You know what else is an 18th century law? The Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights of the United States. The founding generation gave us this law, gave President Trump this law to repel this invasion from our country.
I mean, there's
and it was all detailed in the proclamation, how this gang was sent here by a foreign government, and President Trump is sending them out of this country.
Well, we look forward to learning.
Exactly. Stephen Miller was not playing around. And there's another one where he's on with someone from CNN, and he just destroys her for about 8 minutes. It's amazing. I don't think I'm gonna play that one. It's more of the same thing. But yeah, the left is yammering on about the fact that Trump used an 18th century law, and of course Stephen Miller correctly pointed out, so is the Constitution, so is the Bill of Rights. We still abide by those, or at least we try to. The left, not so much. But like I said, the left, President Trump's ability to make the left take the most extreme, ridiculous position that only 20%, and I think that figure might be kind of high, but that a small minority of the country actually embraces. And I couldn't be happier about it. Let them keep doubling down on stupid. Keep doubling down on keeping these illegal aliens in the country. They're saying that President Trump violated this judge's order because he wouldn't turn the plane around. And it's like, well, the plane was already gone. The plane was in international waters. And Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, he tweeted, "Oopsie, too late." I love it. Bukele has turned El Salvador around very quickly, very quickly. El Salvador used to be basically a war zone, and he's turned it into a vacation destination. It's remarkable. It's amazing that he's been able to do that. You know how he did it? By locking up criminals. That's it. Simple as that. He locked up all the criminals. And amazingly enough, you lock up the criminals, crime goes down. Crime goes down, people feel safe. People feel safe, people start spending money. People start building things. People start showing up as tourists. But the left can't, they can't imagine that. Because as far as they're concerned, it's our fault that the criminals are criminals, and so we have to be as forgiving and compassionate with them as we possibly can. I got into it with some people on X about this, where I basically listed a lot of the things that Stephen Miller said. They're here illegally. They violated the terms of their visas. If they were here on a visa, they committed crimes. They have no right to be here. So get them out. And people were like, "Oh, you need to be more forgiving." They haven't repented. These people haven't repented for their transgressions. These people haven't exhibited any kind of remorse for their actions. This is the life they live, and this is what they do. So no, get them out. Send them to a maximum security terrorist detention center. I don't care. They have no right to be here, so they got to go. And I think that President Trump did the right thing, and like Stephen Miller said, what right does a judge have to interfere in foreign policy? None. Absolutely none. Tren de Aragua has been designated a foreign terrorist organization, which means if you're caught here and you're a member of that terror group, kick rocks. You got to go. And it's amazing the people who actually support keeping them here, who fight against that. It's truly mystifying. All right, we're going to get into some other truly mystifying things. But before we do, I want to get in a word from our sponsor, and our sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear. And you need to check out Carry Girl Gear. My wife has created some of the coolest designs on the highest quality shirts that you'll find anywhere, really. They're well, I'm not gonna name names, but they're cooler than any cooler and higher quality than any of the name brands that you might think of. And there's also drinkware, hats, and all kinds of other accessories that your wife or girlfriend would absolutely love. And listen, if you don't want to try and get the right size, or you're not sure exactly what you think she might want or like right now, just go ahead and get a gift certificate. Get a gift certificate. Let her pick out what she wants from Carry Girl Gear. That some people might not find that appealing, but I do. So check it out. Visit carrygirl.com today. And also, you can hit Mission Ready Men from Carry Girl, I believe. But anyway, go to missionreadymen.com and check out all the designs that we have on the men's side as well. And we also have accessories. We also have drinkware. You can check out this great mug, the Mission Ready Men mug. They are actually, we're moving pretty quickly with them. So check this out, Mission Ready Men, the Mission Ready Men mug. It's an awesome mug. I love it. It's my new favorite. And but yeah, check out Carry Girl Gear and Mission Ready Men. You will not be disappointed. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network. And here on SHR, you can catch Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Reaver of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ on the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, which means he will be on tonight at 11 p.m. So please like and subscribe to all of those guys. Great shows, and pray that we all have a huge breakthrough this year so that we can reach as many people as we possibly can, because people need to hear it. People need to hear what we all have to say, because there's still, like I said, that 20%. And a lot of them probably are not persuadable. But even the 80% that actually has some common sense is going to love to hear what we all have to say. So go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and help us get the word out. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right. So I've talked about this guy before. Anthony Mackie. He is the new Captain America, basically just Falcon with the stars and stripes on his costume. And for those of you who are not comic book nerds or MCU fans, bear with me, because it really doesn't have anything to do with that, what we're going to talk about right now. Anthony Mackie made some waves recently when he talked about being Captain America, playing Captain America, and not having America be one of the things that Captain America stood for. Just a completely incoherent, ridiculous notion. But he's a Hollywood actor, so it kind of just is par for the course, I guess. And I think when you see this clip that I'm about to show you, you might understand why it was so incoherent. But he actually does, in this clip, make some sense, and we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to talk about another clip from the same interview where he makes absolutely no sense. But here he is talking about something that we've talked about on this show quite a bit. He's talking about the decline in masculinity in this country. And so let's check this out.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like, your kids. And no, I don't give a, I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he's going to straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open the door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always, since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night. This alarm is on. You text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, you know? And so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
Hold up.
So he made a little bit of sense there. And I think for people who are not coming at it from a biblical perspective, I think he made a lot of sense. But obviously, I believe that there was something missing from that analysis, and that was obviously, like I said, he didn't mention God at all. And while the Bible doesn't exactly give a concise, definitive prescription for how men embody godly biblical masculinity, it does give us a bit of an outline of how to be biblically masculine, godly men, when the Bible describes King David as a man after God's own heart. And so how do we become men after God's own heart? Anthony Mackie was kind of onto something, and I don't know if you caught it. You can rewind it and look back at that, but he looked high. His eyes looked kind of glazed over, and I don't know anything about the Pivot podcast. I don't know if they indulge in any sort of substances prior to the podcast. I don't know, but he did kind of look high. But anyway, how do we become men after God's own heart? Well, we take responsibility, which is kind of what he was trying to impart to his sons, and that's great. David took responsibility for the sins that he committed, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But Mackey was also talking about having his sons be responsible for themselves, for their behavior, and for the safety and security of their home when he's not there to take that responsibility himself. That's great. Another way is to another part of it is to develop courage, be courageous. And when it comes to leaving it in the context of what Anthony Mackie was saying, I believe he was trying to impart to his children to be men of courage, to be able to take that responsibility on to keep his family, his home safe, and things like that. And this is something that we're gonna dive into a little deeper. Right now, I'm just trying to give us that outline, but this is something that we are going to, like I said, dig a little deeper into in the coming weeks. Another aspect of becoming a man after God's own heart is to be true to your word. If you say something, do something. If you say something, mean it. Say what you mean what you say. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're not going to do something, don't do it. And with all the temptations that this world has to offer, that can be challenging. But that's why we have God to guide us, to step in, for us to go to Him when we're feeling like we're being tempted or like we're being challenged in some way. We have to leave it in His hands. Another thing, and Mackie didn't talk about it much in his little spiel right there, but David was a man of skill. David was a warrior. David was a musician. David was a shepherd. David was a lot of things, in addition to being the king and courageous and things like that, being a warrior. So being a man after God's own heart means you should develop some useful skills. These days, so many men don't know how to use basic tools. They don't know how to change a tire. They don't know how to change their oil in their vehicles. They don't know how to defend themselves. And if they don't know how to defend themselves, they can't be depended on to defend anyone else. And so those skills, and like I said, David, he was obviously a great warrior. He knew how to defend himself. He knew he didn't hesitate when it came time to fight Goliath. And it's not like he was a big guy himself, but he relied on the Lord for his courage, and that's where it came from. But like I said, he also had those skills. So it's important for men to have some useful skills that can help them in uncertain times, whether it's changing oil, changing a tire, being able to do anything really that women shouldn't have to do, that children shouldn't have to do. Men should have those skills, should have those abilities. And if you don't have them, you should work on getting them. It's that plain and simple. And as I alluded to before, be repentant. Understand that we're not perfect. Understand that you're going to do things that are wrong. And when those things are pointed out to you, or when you recognize that you did something wrong, be repentant. David was a murderer and an adulterer, but he took responsibility for those actions and truly repented for those sins. That's why when people talk about how can a Christian vote for President Trump because he did this, he did that, blah, blah, blah. I don't know President Trump's, I don't know President Trump's heart. The things that he has said in recent months and within the past year or so, especially after his brush with death, certainly makes me think that he's repentant, that he's come to acknowledge the role of God in his life. So if God can use David, who was a murderer and an adulterer, and the Bible is rife with examples of imperfect men who did a lot of bad things, but God still used them. So when people say Christians shouldn't vote for Trump, that makes absolutely no sense from a biblical perspective. No sense. If President Trump has repented for those sins and he is truly has truly embraced God in his life, there's no reason for me not to vote for him, especially when you consider all the great things that have been going on over the past 2 months. Obviously, despite the fact that we're all imperfect, God has to use imperfect people. But despite all of that, there is one example in the Bible that that is the absolute pinnacle of biblical masculinity that we should aspire to, and that's obviously Jesus Christ. He didn't commit any sin. We all have committed sin. We all are going to commit sin. There's no getting around that. And even though King David has a lot of qualities that we should look up to and try to embrace ourselves, ultimately it comes down to Jesus Christ. We have to accept him as our Lord and Savior and use his example of service and sacrifice to truly become men after God's own heart. And as I said, we're gonna dive into that a little deeper. I never thought that Anthony Mackie would be the catalyst for an idea for a series of topics that we're going to talk about on this show, but yet here we are. One last thing about Mackie before we move on, because he said something else in this podcast that for as much, and not that he made a whole lot, but for the sense that he made in that clip, he completely erased it with this. And here he talks about success and how people achieve success. And it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And we're gonna analyze that here in a second too. Check this out.
I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all this shit. And what I realized yesterday, thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog. And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that they can, and this is fresh on my heart. Like I literally just.
Doesn't he look high? Look at those eyes. Anyway.
Came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all, there were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster. But somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off. You know what
So utterly ridiculous. It's true that not everyone is going to reach the same level of success. It's true that not everyone is going to run the fastest. It's not true that everyone who tries is going to make it to the NFL or Major League Baseball or whatever sport these guys from this podcast were in. I've never even heard of this podcast until I saw these clips. But if you don't put in the work, nobody's going to tap you. You have to put in that work. And what you may think of as success, you may not reach the level of success that you expect, that you want, especially if you don't have a relationship with God. Then you're relying on your own steam, and so your idea of success, what you imagine as being successful may not be. You may not reach that. You may not have the physical skills. You may not have the intellectual capacity. You may not have whatever is necessary. You may be passionate about it. You may try as hard as you possibly can. And you may not reach the same level that somebody else reaches. But that doesn't mean that you're not successful. And what he's basically saying is you don't have to do anything. You just have to wait for somebody to tap you, and then you'll be given all the success you can handle. And that's just not true. This guy is, I don't want to say he's a celebrated actor, but I mean, this guy he's successful. He's successful, and he worked at it. From what I've heard about him over the years, he didn't stop the grind, and now here he is playing a knockoff version of Captain America. Oh man, I haven't seen the movie yet, but from what I've heard, it's not that great, and it's a box office flop. But I mean, nevertheless, he's making a lot of money. He's playing a dream role for a lot of people. That's success. And even though he hasn't, at least publicly, based on what we know from these clips, hasn't imparted to his children any knowledge or relationship with God, but what he's trying to do from a secular perspective, he's trying to instill in his kids a sense of work ethic and of duty and things like that should help them achieve their own success. in whatever field of endeavor they choose. And obviously that would be much better if he did have if he did have a relationship with God and pass that on to his pass that knowledge and that understanding on to his children. But nevertheless, and I think, like I said, he looked high. I think maybe his indulgence in some of the devil's lettuce, as some people like to call it, the Mary Jane, whatever substance he was on, probably clouded his thinking a little bit, because it makes absolutely no sense. And if he starts teaching that to his kids, he will be doing them a grave disservice. All right, let's move on, because I want to get this one story in here before we go, because this is actually, there's two. All right. Yeah, let's do this. I'm sure you have heard recently about the wave of conservative figures who have been swatted. And if you don't know what that is, swatted is when somebody anonymously calls in, or claims to be you, calls into the police and says that you are holding your family hostage, or you have shot someone, or you're engaged in some sort of violent activity. And of course, when that happens, the SWAT team gets called out. And thankfully, no one has been hurt yet. And I think that now that so many conservatives are aware that this is happening, that they're like preemptively calling the police departments in their area and say, hey, I'm so and so, and if you get a call from whoever saying that I've done these types of things, then just know that this has been going on. And I think a lot of police departments now are aware of this trend. Obviously, they're going to have to respond, but they won't be at such a heightened state of awareness where something tragic could happen. But I know that it happened to Tim Pool a few years ago. I know that it's happened to Dan Bongino. I know that it's happened to a number of people. And most recently, we have Gunther Eagleman, Dustin Grage, Max von Swoll, or Matt von Swoll, and Sean Farash, the guy who does the Trump impersonations, the really good, hilarious Trump impersonations, and family members of some prominent conservatives have been swatted. And this is nothing short of attempted murder. Cat Turd, Chase Geyser, Nick Sorter and his dad and his sister, Joe Pags. I mean, and I know that I've left a number of people off because it's been happening. It's I think there were like 4 or 5 just last week. It's insane. And this is nothing short of attempted murder, because you're priming the police to go in thinking that they're going to have to respond violently to a violent suspect. And if the person who's been swatted, if that person doesn't know what's going on and They find out somebody is trying to break into their home at 2 a.m. They're most likely going to have a firearm. And if the police don't identify themselves quickly enough, something very, very tragic could happen. And so as far as I'm concerned, like I said, this is attempted murder. They are trying to kill conservatives. So if you have any type of voice on social media, be vigilant. Be very, very careful. I'm not saying, I am not saying by any means to not say what you think, to not express yourself online. I'm not saying that at all. I think if you have the ability, you should double down on it. But at the same time, understand and do what some of these people did. Call your local sheriff's department, call your local police department and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. This has been happening. I just want you to know, blah, blah, blah. If this happens, I will cooperate fully and just make sure that they're aware of the situation, because they're trying to kill us. They are trying to kill us. They can't compete in the marketplace of ideas because their ideas are terrible. And most of them can't express themselves with any level of intelligence. So they have to resort to violence. Violence is their go-to, even though they try to say that conservatives are the ones who engage in this type of violent behavior. It's the left. The left, it is their number one go-to. I mean, we saw it in the Summer of Love, 2020. We saw it. We see it all the time. We see it all the time. Their response when they can't compete is violence. It's violence. They're mostly peaceful protests. I will never forget during the Summer of Love. I think this happened in Seattle, where they basically just beat up some kid, and I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were, but I remember he had been beaten up. He was basically sitting almost unconscious on the ground, and some dude just ran up to him, wound up, and kicked him in the head. And the kid didn't die, but he was in the hospital for a while. And nobody really had anything bad to say about that. They want you dead. They want you dead. And so, like I said, be vigilant. All right, y'all. On that downer of a note, it is just about time. That's all the time. That's all we got for you this time. But I will try to do better on the next one. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, share these episodes so that we can continue to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and the message of hope and liberty that he promises to as many people as we possibly can, because we want to preserve it for our future generations. And if you like the shirt I'm wearing, Christian, straight male, unwoke, unvaxxed, how else can I offend you today? Go ahead and head over to missionreadymen.com, shop 7 Armors, and check out all the cool designs that have a message of faith and patriotism. And also check out the accessories we have. This mug is awesome. Go ahead and pick yourself up one, because they're going fast. All right, y'all. As always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.